Right, so I've been thinking about Dungeness crabs.
Dungeness crabs?
Yeah. I pity them. Imagine your whole existence just being food. The fact that you are it. Because there are lots of different types of crabs. I was going to ask you both, if you could be any crab, what one would you be? And my first thought was, well, neither of them are going to say Dungeness.
That's true.
I mean, I don't know enough about crabs to have known what a Dungeness crab was, but now that I've looked at it and gone, oh yeah, that's the one that people do all the eating of, I certainly wouldn't be a Dungeness crab.
Right? That's the thing. Nobody would choose to be a Dungeness crab. I think in terms of sea life that people wouldn't choose to be, it's a male anglerfish because of how they fuck.
Well, you don't want to be the simp of the ocean.
That is a brilliant fucking word for it. Yeah, you don't want to be the simp fish, and you don't want to be a Dungeness crab. If you compare it to a cow, I realise that's a bit of a different animal from a crab. Slightly smaller claws. But if you compare it to a cow, which we literally keep around to milk and eat, the first result, like the first page of results, is not about eating cows. You Google Dungeness crab, right? Immediately, how to eat Dungeness crab. The easiest whole Dungeness crab recipe. Dungeness crab legs. You look up cow, right on the first page, man trampled to death by cows in lunch hour walk, inquest hears. That's badass!
I'm looking up crabs right now to be like, look, I have very little knowledge on this, but I'm going to make an ill-informed decision on what kind of crab I would be. The ghost crab seems pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
It lives on tropical beaches, it's good at disguising, so it's not going to get hassled by tourists on those tropical beaches, but still gets to enjoy them, and it has little white pincers. It looks like someone tried to design a Pokemon, because it's all one colour, but it's got different colour pincers. It's great.
I was about to say, like, in terms of crabs, it's one of the most Pokemon-looking crabs.
Yeah.
Especially the red ones, because their little eye stalks are like... they're red and the stalks are red, but there's two big white lumps with black slits on. They just look like cartoon eyes.
They look like eyes. They look like cartoon eyes. Exactly. Yeah. So that's my crab I'm gonna be.
That's a good choice.
Oh, and they're so tiny. That's a very tiny crab. No one's gonna notice me. I'll just enjoy the beach life.
Okay, let me just ghost crab Laura. Right. Just add a parenthesis. Did not say Dungeness crab. Cool. Conrad.
Yeah.
If you could be any crab.
Oh, any crab.
And remember, right, there's a lot of political capital involved in this question.
There is.
What one would you be?
I would be a hermit crab.
Oh, classic choice, if I might say so.
That is a fun choice. You get to pick and swap houses. That's so fun.
Yeah, because I don't believe in private property. You see, that mollusk shell, I can just move right in. And, if I find one that's better suited to me, I can move into that one.
Yeah.
I think in terms of a crab that personifies the concept of property being theft, I think the hermit crab is right up there.
Yeah.
Look, they've got things right. You have a house that's sort of like an outfit that you live in, and when you outgrow that, you just pass it down to someone else who could use it, and you find someone else's cast off that's now right for you, and share and share alike.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right, so that's the issues dealt with. Listeners, welcome to Podquisition. I hope you're all doing well. That's it for that. That is pretty much the main problem of the day I wanted to tackle. We can move on to anything from there, even video games, if you're that kind of sick freak.
I mean, we could get some video games out the way. We could certainly do a couple of them. I'm just going to jump right in. I'm not even going to ask who's going to start. I'm going to start. I've been playing a game called Melatonin this week.
Tried to play that.
Yeah.
Last week.
Yeah?
I couldn't nail the rhythm of it and got really upset and stopped.
Did you know that game has accessibility settings?
I did. And out of sheer obstinance and tantrum-infused arrogance, I did not use them.
So, I'm about to talk about using them, having been in a very similar situation to yourself. So I played a demo for this back last summer. I think it was one of the various video game conferences that happened around E3 time showed a trailer of this off, and there was a demo on Steam. And I talked about it on Podquisition at the time as a game that I really liked a lot about, but didn't enjoy playing, and just felt like I was fundamentally not good enough to play. It is a music rhythm game that has a very sort of like lo-fi beats to relax and study to aesthetic and audio design sensibility, where you are a person falling asleep on the sofa and having some weird fucked up dreams about the day that are sort of a little bit rhythm heaven or elite beat agents in their attempt to sort of be a silly concept that you engage with through music rhythm. I really struggled to play that game's demo because I got really infuriated with the very precise timings it wanted from me, and I struggled to follow the amount of audio-visual feedback it was giving me. Even in the first handful of 4 levels, the way that the game's kind of structured is you will be introduced to a handful of core mechanics for a level. The very first one, for example, is you're just pressing A, but there are 3 different timings you're having to do it on. One is like a high throw of some food, one's a medium throw of some food, and one's like straight towards you. And that'll change what beat you have to press the button on. I found it really hard to switch between the different rhythms and the different timings.
There's one particular.
Yeah.
I think it's the one where it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, shoot the thing.
Yeah.
I never nailed it. It was always too late, and I swear I was dead on.
So I similarly really struggled with it, and the reason I gave this game another chance is that I'd heard some people talking about the fact it had some accessibility stuff in it, and there's a couple of different categories I would put the accessibility settings in there into. One is making it easier to get the ranking and the score you need in a way that is unobtrusive and doesn't change the mechanics. You've got 2 settings. One is called Wiggle Room, which gives you a bit more wiggle room for when to hit a note to still get it hit as perfect. Just increases the perfect window a little bit. And the other one is you still get the early or late, but you are penalised less for an early or late than you would otherwise be. The other category is audio-visual feedback. So you can either turn on a metronome that is just constantly there to help you keep your sort of your beat and have a reference, or you can have an on-screen visualizer that's somewhat like a Guitar Hero note track, where you have just a circle that's going 1, 2, 3, 4 in the middle of the screen. It's like very well built into the aesthetic of the game. It doesn't like obstruct the visuals too much, and the buttons you have to press will sort of come in from the sides, and when they hit the center, that's your point you're supposed to be hitting the button on. And in combination, having a metronome and a visualizer to help keep that beat, and a little extra wiggle room on that very precise timing it wants, I went from like having really written this game off last year as like, I want to like it, but it's just not going to be for me, to really, really enjoying it and playing through a bunch of it on stream earlier this week and having a great time. I think this is a really good example of a game that, like, took on board the feedback when its demo was out that a lot of people were like, I love the idea of this, but I'm getting frustrated and that doesn't feel like it gels well with the visuals and the music that's happening. I don't want to be frustrated with this, and found a really well-integrated way to make that more playable.
I'm glad it's not just me. Like, because I consider myself, like, I'm not great at rhythm games, but I consider myself having, like, pretty decent timing for the non-plastic instrument ones. Could not nail this.
I can't put my finger quite on what I struggled with this without the accessibility settings, but with them in place, like, they are integrated in such a way that I didn't feel like, aha, that's a thing on screen that's telling me I needed help. But it just made me have a much more enjoyable time with it. And I think that the further I got into it, the more that I've been really genuinely quite enjoying this game. It is quite charming. It tells a little bit of a narrative through its levels without sort of beating you over the head with it, and sort of lets you pick up a narrative as you go. I think it's got some really fun ideas, some really creative level concepts. I really dig it. and I understand why you found it frustrating, and I hope that you can get to a point where you can let yourself use the accessibility settings, because I can't promise anything, but they might well do what they did for me, which is really help me to enjoy that game. So yeah, that's Melatonin. What about you both? Who's played a game they want to talk about?
Well, we were talking about Hades a bit last week, and so I've been playing more Hades again. And I tried the build that you had recommended with the
the laser gun.
with the laser gun.
Yeah.
And I get it.
It's not for you.
It's not for me. I can't even really place what it is about it that's not quite working. I mean, part of it is the stationary nature of needing to hold the attack and stand still. That's definitely part of it. The real stop-start nature of movement with the gun, generally speaking, is a problem. I think I would have found it more effective also had I had this knowledge earlier.
Yeah.
Because at this point, I'm running, I think, 13 or 16 heat on the gun.
Yeah.
So I had already really progressed to a point where now in order for that build to be effective, I probably can't be increasing health of enemies, because the damage is low, but fast.
And that's definitely a thing that is relevant, because I have been playing, that gun was the first gun that I got past, more than 1 or 2 heat with.
Mm-hmm.
And my positive experiences with that are very much rooted in, I found a gun that works for me in a build I find fun, but also I'm at low enough heat that, I'm not yet coming up against the whatever walls would prevent this being effective long term.
Right. Yeah. But it is an interesting build. It is fun to play, and I might even just do a few low heat runs just because it is neat to blast that lightning everywhere.
Yeah.
But I've been trying to also do runs with weapons that I've paid less attention to, and I've started playing with the spear a bit.
I've been playing with the spear this week as well.
Mm.
This has been my new weapon now that I feel confident with the gun. I've been doing the basic spear. I think it's just the Hades spear.
Mm.
So I've been playing around with basically having lightning on my regular attack,
Mm-hmm.
water on my special, and as quickly as I can, getting a bunch of the the special abilities on the electricity, and getting it so that every time I do knockback, it also electrifies. And then using the Daedalus Hammer upgrade that turns your special into a 50 base power explosion. And throwing and just spamming the special attack with the spear so that it hits a thing, explodes, knockback, electricity starts arcing, and that's been my approach. And if I can get all the bits for it, it works really well, but there's a few too many things needed to get to the good build for it to be viable.
Yeah, a lot of critical components in that. Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of things where if I just don't get that one thing, the whole build falls apart.
A big problem with those builds comes with the Daedalus hammers. Because everything else in the game you can at least re-roll to get another shot at it, but not with that. And so if I do find that the builds that are largely predicated on one of those, it's a real risk-reward proposition to go down that path. Yeah.
I also feel like I don't know this for certain, but I feel like some Daedalus Hammer upgrades are rarer than others.
Oh, that could be.
In that, there are certain ones that, with that gun build that I was talking about the other week, I find it really easy to reliably grab the infinite ammo one.
Mm-hmm.
Finding on the spear, finding the explosive special, that I maybe it's just anecdotal. I find that so hard to get, and I feel like there is some weighting to certain upgrades that I should maybe be considering if I'm going to build around one.
Yeah, I have been using it with the aspect of Achilles.
Which one is that? What does that do?
That is the one where when you throw the spear out with special and you press special again, you attack to position.
Oh, yeah.
Like Achilles. And I hadn't used it. And I don't know why I hadn't used it. Because now that I think about it, it's so obviously the version of the spear that plays to my dash in, deal a bunch of damage, dash out strategy.
It's the one I was drawn to originally, but I couldn't work out what boons to use with it to make it feel effective, because I agree with you. Like, as someone that loves the Gilgamesh fists, I love get in, do hits, get out.
And as I tend to do with the builds that I put around abilities, slower, harder hitting attacks, I tend to do things I don't plan to stack, and I tend to favor Ares and Doom for that. And I have found that to be really, really effective, particularly as in the Pact of Punishment, I tend to always put the first 2 hits are blocked.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's cheap, it's 2 easy heat points to get on there, and it's very easy to mitigate. And it works really well with Doom, because as you throw the spear out, hit with the Doom, that's one hard off, but it also applies the status effect. And then when you follow up with the Raging Rush, it eliminates the other heart, and then the Doom kicks in and does the big damage. And so you get a real good start on any enemy that you can lay that combination down with, and then you can leave the combat encounter with another use of Doom. Hitting with the special, passing through them to escape, and possibly going towards another target. That's been really, really good. And then, throwing on any other faster status effect like Chill or Dionysus. What does he call it?
Oh, the basic
poison. It's fucking poison.
It's poison on your basic attack.
Yeah. Either of those, Chill or poison on basic attack is then where I'll try to go with it. But I keep wanting to find Artemis more valuable. Like, I don't know why it is that it seems to me that in other roguelikes, crit damage, bonuses, and frequency seems like such a better route to travel on than it is in Hades.
I've been playing around with the Artemis one a bit, because the first spear build that I was really trying was very centered around those crits, because I was like, if I'm going to be doing lots of specials that are slow attacks but are in theory going to be quite heavy hitters, getting a really good percentage of the time that just does more damage than it normally would feels really smart. It just doesn't feel like it is synergizing with other things in ways that are like, it doesn't feel like it has quite as obvious a correlation to anything else I might build around.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I keep trying it, and maybe one day I'll figure out what I'm doing wrong. I did another, I can't remember if it was the sword. One of them, I think it's the sword has an aspect where you, after your special, for 3 seconds, all of your attacks get a crit bonus. And I tried to pair that with Artemis and a bunch of other crit bonuses, special, or, bonus to attack and bonus to damage on crit, and it just didn't seem to be delivering on the damage per second that I was expecting it would. I just don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah.
But anyway, still having fun. Really looking forward to playing actually a little more with the spear now that I've found something that I really like in terms of build.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steph, have you played anything?
Yeah. I decided that enough time had passed and that I was no longer fucking sick of hearing about it. So I gave Cyberpunk 2077 a go.
Oh.
Yeah. It's fine.
That's what I expected.
I have felt like because, our jobs have often seen us play a majority of mainstream big budget games at or very near to launch. And as someone who's done that for pretty much every major release, except obviously the ones done by Activision and Ubisoft because they're gross of recent years, I did find it quite valuable to come to a game like a year and a chunk of change after launch.
It's nice, isn't it? Like, for the last, 5 years, that's sort of been the way it's gone for me. I maybe play 1 or 2 major releases a year near the time of the release. And any other AAA stuff is stuff that I get on, PlayStation Plus or somewhere else where it's been out for a year by now and it's done and I can just sort of experience it. It's lovely.
Yeah, it's... Even though, I'm playing it the way I play any other game, there is this extra element of relaxation to it where it's there's no pressure.
Yeah.
And it's having none of the baggage attached.
Yep.
And that game had a lot of baggage attached. Various controversies, both with the game specifically and CD Projekt Red at large. So being able to see through all that, it really does put into perspective how fleeting the hype for a game is, to where back when it was new, a reviewer was basically, as far as I'm concerned, assault attempts were made against her.
Yeah.
When she complained about the flashing effect near the beginning of the game that is known to cause seizures, and the reviewer suffers from seizures, and then a bunch of fans decided to send those images, which, as far as I'm concerned, is an attempted assault.
100%, yeah.
Yeah. It wouldn't happen now. You can say what you want about it. I could go on Twitter right now and say Cyberpunk 2077 is fine.
I don't know. I feel like there are still many things you could say about that would get the internet coming frothing.
Maybe not shit all over it, but you could have a mild take, which back then you fucking couldn't. I could tweet, I'm playing Cyberpunk 2077, it's fine. And that's how I've been describing it, with no real blowback. Because that level of fervent zealousy, only in a few rare instances, with, the truly fucking cracked fan bases, does it really last all that long? And it puts into perspective just how much of that attachment and how much of the fighting over opinions of the game mean nothing. And I've seen it in my 15-odd years of doing this shit. I've seen it time and time again, where all it takes is a year, sometimes 6 months, before everything about that game that mattered so fucking much doesn't. I mean, how many people have come around to my opinion of Final Fantasy 13? And it didn't take very long. It's got fans, sure. A lot of glowing praise exists for it. But so many people turned around on it and was like, you know what? It's not that great. It's like the Zelda thing where every new Zelda has to be the best thing ever or we'll fucking get you until the next Zelda comes along. Then you've got a bit of wiggle room. I'm going to get a lot less shit for Breath of the Wild once the new one comes out, The Queen is Dead. At least until my review of The Queen is Dead. Then they might Actually, I'm hoping I love it. But moving on. Cyberpunk 2077, divorced of all that baggage. It's a decent game. It's decent. I am enjoying it. I like the resentment. I think it was a wise move to not cover it as a game release at the time for me, because I was so fucking sick of it. So yeah, having a fresh look at it, I can sort of say it's an enjoyable game. It's a little difficult to go to it after playing so much Witcher 3, because it ain't anywhere near as good as The Witcher 3 in every respect. In terms of gameplay, it's more ponderous, less clearly defined as far as mission structures go, as far as the map goes. It's just not as open and free-feeling. The gameplay it's got really good aspects and other bits that aren't so good. It's not as consistently satisfying and doesn't have the same flow as something like The Witcher 3. But it's got fairly decent, solid first-person shooting mechanics with, admittedly, really nice hacking stuff. I built my character to take advantage of the quick hacks, as they call them. And it is very cool to, like, highlight an enemy and jam their gun or stop them from being able to move or disabling all of their cybernetic things. I get a lot of satisfaction from that. Shut up. My Tamagotchi's whining. I'm intermittently starving it to get the Tamagotchi I want. They evolve based on how much you mistreat them, which I think is wrong, but I'm doing it. Writing as well. Like, I consider the dialogue, just the general conversational dialogue in The Witcher 3, to be really good. The characterizations, the way characters interact with each other. I think that's like, in terms of mainstream so-called AAA video games, I think The Witcher 3 is up there. With Cyberpunk 2077, a lot of people have said it's like baby's first capitalism critique. And even that, I think, is lending it a depth that is not quite reflective of it. Every now and then it will just be like, yeah, Corpo bad. But then I learned that watching Captain fucking Planet. I don't need Cyberpunk 2077 for that surface layer critique. And on top of that, like, it's so cyberpunk that it would be a parody if it wasn't. Like, the way they are doing the whole dystopia and big mega conglomerates, all named after Japanese, like, companies and names and things, which I point out because in 2019, Casey Explosion did this tweet thread, a really well-written one, really easy to follow one, about the origins of cyberpunk and how much of that origin stemmed from the fear of Japan.
Yep.
So to see that embraced without critique
in
in Cyberpunk 2077 is, like, I'm not going to imply anything negative towards the game that I wouldn't apply to cyberpunk as a genre, but it really stands out when every corporation mentioned is Japanese.
Yeah.
It's just one of them things where you're like, Casey was not wrong.
It is a problem that cyberpunk as a genre generally has, which is fear of the other or fetishization of the other.
Oh, don't get me started on that.
Yeah. There's only two ways it goes. It's the future. You are either scared of people who aren't you, or you're gonna fuck people who aren't you.
Yeah. I mean, for a long time in my life, the concept of fucking people who weren't me was novel. I will admit that. So I'm kind of with them on that front. There's not been a massive amount of, well, there is the whole, sex robots, like sex workers with robot arms and shit. Which again, just in theme with that game, is just like laughably unsubtle. Just laughably unsubtle. That Mix It Up poster is still in there.
Yeah.
Which, if I recall correctly, the compromise they made on that was not that they'll take out the poster of a femme-presenting character with a huge penis bulge in their tight spandex with "Mix It Up" written on it. Their compromise wasn't, we'll take that poster out because we're getting criticism of trans fetishism. No, it was, we're going to make the dicks smaller.
Yeah.
If I recall correctly, that was the comp. That poster's everywhere. And you know what? I'm not offended by it. It's just infantile. And again, speaks to the game's writing and presentation overall. It's just not subtle.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, They tried to apologize by being like, no, you can have a trans character creator, and then the character creator ties your pronouns to your choice of voice, for example.
Well,
and
yeah.
Like, it's one of those, like, yeah, you're doing the thing where you're doing, oh, that's exciting and new and novel. We haven't really thought about why we're putting, but it's different, it's there.
Right? It's about as surface level as the queer rep that's going to be in Hogwarts Legacy. And I'm not just guessing. I know some things.
Oh, I've heard some things.
But I'm waiting to talk about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Cyberpunk 2077 it's when you compare it to the controversy and the fan hype and they put its positioning as such an important game, it's a major disappointment. Divorced of all that, it's quite a good game that I'm judging a little more harshly just because the past couple weeks I've been playing so much Witcher 3. My God, though, talking about being able to make a trans character, I streamed Cyberpunk 2077 earlier this week. We'll probably do it again on my next stream. I didn't realise that the point at which I'd paused the game to start streaming it was a point at which a cutscene took my character's clothes off.
Oh no.
Oh.
So,
Mm-hmm.
Everyone on stream currently knows that my ideal playable character in any game is one with massive tits and a small dick. And they got full frontal evidence of that when I went on the inventory screen. I just wanted to try on a new hat. I just wanted to put a new hat on, and instead, full frontal. It was pretty amazing. But yeah, the game is fucking buggy. I've not seen anything as broken as the stuff that was all going around and sort of got mimetic at launch. I do appear to have been hit with a bug that was prevalent at launch, and a real fucky one that hasn't been fixed in all this time. And it's such a significant one that's complained about a lot, so it's like really annoying that it's there. But you can hack access points, these terminals, in order to get either money or components for crafting quick hacks or quick hacks. And there's a bug that if you do a really early mission, if you complete that, there's a better than good chance that hacking will not give you quick hacks, i.e. the best reward for hacking. And as someone who built their character around quick hacks, I'm really fucking annoyed with that. I'm hoping that I've not been hit with the bug. There's, as far as I can tell, quick hacks are quite rare, but there is part of the leveling up system, there is a skill that ups the chance of getting them. And I don't know if I should pick it up or if I'm just wasting a skill point now. Because certainly in my 10 plus hours of playing it, I ain't gotten one. Other than that, it's mostly like physics glitches I've seen. Nothing too game breaking so far. What else can I say about it? It's big. It's got a map and graphics. It looks quite nice.
Yeah.
Yet again, I want to point out what I pointed out with The Witcher 3. The default setting is performance mode. You can put on ray tracing mode and it makes the game shit. Objectively, scientifically shit. Oh god, there was something else I was going to say about it. Oh yeah, I will say that if anyone is thinking of picking it up and they've not played it before, be warned that like the first 5 hours or so is it takes a long time to get going, and you are constantly inundated with phone calls from characters giving you side quests that can't even be followed because it's like, find half a dozen of these things, and it's just better to sort of stumble on it as you play. Like, I streamed for 3 hours the other night, and I got into one combat encounter that I stumbled on just because it was off to the side while I was on my way to a mission. And the rest of it was just sitting, listening to talking, which might sound great to a lot of people. I think because the writing and characterization is fairly weak in this game, I'm noticing it more. But after I'm sort of 10 hours deep now, and I've learned that the most fun I'm having is opening up the map, finding a picture of a skull, and then tagging it and going there and killing the rather sensitively named cyber psychos.
Yeah, one of the many things left over as a holdover from the Cyberpunk tabletop role-playing game that didn't treat mental health or disability or queerness very well at all.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the real shames, is they clearly fucking loved... They loved the genre of cyberpunk. You play this, you could tell they fucking love it, because it is so unsubtly embracing of it. But they really did have a chance to do something more with it, rather than put you in Night City. It's called Night City, for fuck's sake. And just do everything you've seen in other cyberpunk stuff with no interesting takes. I think that's the biggest thing. You look at some of CDPR's other work, again, sort of looking at the Witcher series, which plays around a lot with various expectations of what a monster is and what very familiar adventure quests are. It loves to throw you little curveballs and things. And maybe it's unfair to keep comparing Cyberpunk to Witcher 3, but, you know, I'm comparing CDPR's latest output with the output that came before, and creatively it's a step down, because I've not once been surprised by the game, because it's just hitting every branch on the Cyberpunk tree as it sort of jumps down off the top. But I have put a lot of time into it, and I'm not feeling like that time is ill spent. Well, the first 5 hours were, but I am liking it. And I will say, as far as celebrity appearances in games go, Keanu Reeves is putting in the effort. This isn't fucking Patrick Stewart at the beginning of Oblivion. Like, he didn't just turn up for 5 minutes, phone it in, and call it a day. He's in it, being all Keanu Reevesy, playing a real dick, which I like. I do enjoy that Johnny Silverhand is just a prick, and that's probably one of the more enjoyable aspects of the game's actual writing, is just interacting with this utter dickhead. Really pretentious. Fucking, like, they didn't try and make his character cool because it's Keanu. They were like, no, he's just going to be a knob. So I enjoy that aspect. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Cyberpunk 2077 so far. I am, as a general rule, very much enjoying it. In terms of open world games, it's structurally a very nice one. I have happily spent a ton of time in it, but I do think there's a lot of creative disappointment in there as well.
Yeah.
Things
I've been playing. I'm gonna rattle through a couple of things quickly.
Rattle.
I've been playing more stuff on my Playdate, because I continue to have more Playdate games every week.
You mean you continue to have a Playdate?
Must be fucking nice.
I continue to have a Playdate, that I do. So this week's Playdate games are Omaze and Demon Quest 85.
Brilliant.
So I'm going to talk about Omaze first. Omaze is a puzzle game that is played with the crank on the side of the Playdate, that is about navigating a small circle around the interior of larger circles. At its very most basic, you start a level. Let's say there are 3 circles, one on the left, one in the middle, one on the right. They're all touching. You use the crank to move yourself around the edge of the circle. Where you're at the point where the 2 of them touch, you can press a button to hop from the one you're in to the one touching it. And you sort of do that to get to the end. There are some ways that this is made a little more complex. There are certain circles you will go into that, like, will automatically move you in a certain direction. There are sometimes obstacles that if you touch them, your character will be defeated, and you've got to go back to the start of the level, and you start having to navigate around obstacles. Where the game gets interesting, and the moment that, like, I kind of want to talk about, is that, like, I was playing this for maybe, like, 10-15 minutes, and I started to get to levels where there were other circles, like myself, inside these circles, that whenever I entered their area, were starting to chase me and would chase me until I hopped to the next circle.
Hmm.
Very quickly, I started to personify this game in a way I hadn't been doing previously, and it changed how I felt about it. It feels, once you get to this point, like a stealth action game. It feels like you are trying to, like, be an abstract little character sneaking into a facility, avoiding guards, running away and getting out of sight before they get you again. It is very much just, you can see the entire layout of what this level is going to be, and where these, I guess I've started personifying them as guards in my head, are, and going, cool, let me stop and, like, look at the layout of this set of circles and work out what my route's going to be, and then I just have to really well execute it. I've got to be moving my crank so that I'm just at the right times, getting around, pressing the button just as I meet where the circles touch, start going the other way, avoid an obstacle, maybe turn the direction of auto movement around until I get to the end of a level. It is a really simple concept that controls really well with the crank. The crank is like a really smart control mechanism for this. I'm really impressed at how much I've started to get invested in it, like, tonally and narratively, when it is a bunch of mini games about navigating circles. There is something kind of impressive about how well it has made me feel like it is an abstraction of something more than it is.
Yeah.
And I think that is a real testament of how well this very simple concept has been done. The other game, Demon Quest 85, is a lot more abstract, and I'm not going to say it's necessarily good. I'm enjoying it a lot, but it's got its problems. You find in your older brother's bedroom a book of demon summoning rituals, and your brother's like, I've gone off to university, I don't need this thing anymore, yeah, go nuts, do whatever. So you have to research with this little book of demon rituals and work out what music would this demon like, what food would they enjoy, and what 3 people from my yearbook that has, like, descriptions of various classmates would interest this demon enough to summon them. You start off with, of all the various pages of demons, there is only one you have any real actionable information on, but conversations with summoned demons will start filling out information on other pages, which will help you start working out what you need to summon those demons as well. It is a story about a teenager trying to solve very teenage problems with the power of, like, demonic entities. We're talking, like, this church-loving girl has lost her cat. How can we find a demon to summon that might help with that? This jock is not doing well on the debate team anymore. How can we summon a demon to help him with his lack of debate skills? Where I would say this struggles is as a game. In that you have to commit for quite a while to find out whether your demon summoning ritual worked or not. And if it didn't work, there is not much variation between attempts. The way I would describe this is, you've picked your music, you've picked your food, you've picked your people, you get a little bit of dialogue when you start trying to do the summoning, a little bit of dialogue from the characters, you do your text dialogue choices to attempt to summon the demon, and then, let's say it fails. You might get a hint that says, okay, yeah, the music was right, okay, the food was right, maybe the people aren't right. But then you go and change some things up and try again, and a lot of the thing happens the same way the next time, where you're having to go do your dialogue choices to try and summon the demon, all to find out it didn't work. And, like, there is a slight degree of, you've put a lot of barriers between me tweaking one variable and trying again. Which is a real shame, because, like, when this works, and, like, the core puzzle is satisfying, and the clues are there to work through it, and I do like it, I just wish there was once I'd gotten to the try the ritual stage, I wish I could go, do the same as last time and see whether it works. Or, like, say the same things as last time, don't make me go through, like, the 5 or 6 dialogue choices again, just let me see if the person I swapped in makes some progress for us. But when it is successful, it is charmingly written, it takes itself way too seriously, which just works correctly, I think. It casts you in the role of a character who very sincerely believes that these absolutely nothing things are very important things that definitely are worthy of summoning very dangerous beings to help with. And I'm going to put more time into it, but I found myself a little frustrated with how much I have to do to tweak something and try again. What about you, Conrad? Have you played anything else this week?
Well, I have been digging around in the GameCube library.
Ooh.
Because I had been playing Eternal Darkness, and of course that reminded me that GameCube existed, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so I picked up Chibi-Robo again, which I've not played in many years, and is still very delightful. It's not a long game. I know that I am, like, right now probably at the midpoint, and it feels like it should be a much longer game than it is. But it's so pleasant and charming, and I like the time-based system that it has, where when the game starts, the day and night cycles, they each last 5 minutes, but you can then buy an upgrade very inexpensively that changes it to 10 or 15.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have things that are only available in the daytime and you need to get there, you can drop it to 5 and it won't take long. You won't be waiting long to get back around to it. But if you need more time in an area, you can just easily extend it out also. Really like that. You forget how dark the game is. And I say you forget because I don't, this has never been a tremendously popular series. Even, running the stream of it, as I have a couple times this past week, I've run into a lot of people in the audience who just never knew it existed. And that bums me out.
Yeah.
It bums me out that people don't know this exists because I love a game where you clean, right? I love clean and shit. It's very satisfying to clean stuff, and for some reason I can't extend that to my life. No, I do.
Yeah, you keep a clean house.
Well, I find it very satisfying to clean once it's gotten filthy.
Right.
Like, once it reaches the point of, oh god, this is oppressively disgusting, now I must clean.
It makes it sound like you have recreational ADHD. Like, this is how I have to live. And you're like, this is fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's well, that's the other problem is that I was raised by a person who was obsessed with games,
right,
and viewed capitalism as a game, and taught me to extend the idea of a game into every unsatisfying task to make it satisfying.
Gotta gamify it.
Yeah, I was born to gamify shit, and so I do. I can't help it. And yeah, those rote things that shouldn't be fun, I make them fun. And so I guess, I don't know, maybe I take a certain satisfaction out of watching other people do that, but it's delightful and funny. And there's a really kind of depressing family drama at the center of all of this. And is poignant and heartfelt and does not seem like it belongs in a game that has this much visual charm and seems geared towards a young audience.
Yeah.
It's very good. It's probably fairly hard to find a reasonably priced copy of this. What's this going for on eBay? Let me see here. Because I seem to recall it. Holy shit, I should sell my copy.
Yeah, I had the feeling it was going to be one of those.
Oh, yeah, what's the number?
So here we got a tested, no manual, but with box, $147 with 9 bids.
Ooh, no small chunk of change.
Yeah.
And that's being bid on.
That's been bid on at that.
So that's still going up.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah, I'm seeing 170 complete in box. Bidded on. Damn. Well, okay. Well, anyway, but it emulates very well and upscales beautifully.
Yeah, I'm looking at copies in the UK, like £300.
Fucking hell.
That's just... Once again, I have to point out how much we've ruined things for ourselves. Like, we don't even need capitalism to fuck each other over.
No.
With the dawn of collectible, like turning everything collectible, like we've made so much unobtainable.
Hey, emulation is morally acceptable when
Yes.
to legitimately buy a second-hand copy of a game is going to cost you fucking half a console's price.
Yeah. You know, these games, in an ideal world, games are made to be played.
Yeah.
And if you can't play it by buying it, then yeah. Or if you just want to do it for fun, because it's always morally acceptable to pirate. It's not theft, it's reclamation when it's a corporation. But yeah, it is grim. Because it's hard to emulate, like, DS games and things. Like, a lot of them turn out to be shit. But I desperately want to replay Aliens Infestation, and it's fucking expensive. Anyway, sorry, went on a tangent there, but it's just sad, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, have you played anything else, Steph?
I played this one a couple of weeks ago and forgot about it, but I want to bring it up because I think Laura, you will like this.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember if you've actually mentioned it before. Are you familiar with a game called A Short Hike?
Oh, I love A Short Hike.
Oh,
Great
yeah. Yeah, we've talked about it, yeah.
Yeah, as I was finishing my first sentence about it, I was like, wait a minute. This seems familiar now that I'm bringing it up in this context.
It's a cute little game, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is a very cute game. It was recommended to me by quite a few people after my review of Lil Gator Game.
Yes.
I don't think it's quite as good. It's not as affable. Depending on what you're looking for from these types of games, some might find it preferable because it's got a lot more quote-unquote video game gameplay insofar as you're collecting these golden feathers that are essentially stamina that let you get more extra jump height and climbing things so that you're doing little tasks for people to get better at climbing to the top of this mountain. Very short game. I don't find it quite as like funny and the characters quite as endearing as Little Gator Game. Although again, once again, I'm sort of doing maybe a bit too much comparison to other stuff. On its own, yeah, lovely little game. I enjoy it. I enjoyed it a lot. It was very cute. I did like and I you know me, I fucking hate stamina meters, but this was a well-considered one. So many games, and this is the big problem with so many, is they tack it on because it's the done thing. Whereas this game, it's because its progress is so innately tied to that stamina. And there's this interesting balance between you can get more of these feathers, but you might be able to creatively work your way up this thing. It's just, they thought about it. I don't mind stamina in a game if it's in there for a fucking reason. If it's not just there to be there, it's why I find it more acceptable in like a Souls-like, because they thought about it. It's an inherent part of the strategy of a fight. It's not just there for the fucking sake of it. Yeah, so I like the idea, the way stamina as a concept is in A Short Hike. And of course, the game is so laid back that it doesn't quite matter. It's not life or death, whether or not you can make use of the stamina. I will say I had to bump the pixel size down in the graphical options. The game is trying to emulate like a sort of PS1 aesthetic, and it starts off with the maximum pixel size for everything on screen, and it was borderline unviewable to me. Bumping it all the way down, everything is still like almost jarringly jaggy to me, but I did get used to it. But just thank God there was a series of options for pixel size, because that default one is so ugly to me, and I found it very hard to look at.
There have been a lot of games over the last couple of years that have tried to do that and have had to sort of back down on their own artistic choice because it has not gelled with players. Little Gator Game originally had a very similar visual filter over it as default, which got taken away from being the default and became something you had to go find in the menus.
Yeah.
Because people struggled with it.
Because it's not good. I put that option on while playing Little Gator Game for like a little bit.
Yeah.
And immediately was like, oh no. I mean, it's not quite as atrocious as like, say, I don't know, selecting ray tracing mode in a game, but it wasn't pleasant. I think one of the big problems is, even though there is a real appeal and allure and certainly nostalgia to the PSX aesthetic, it has to be remembered that the jump from 16-bit to 3D resulted in a lot of fucking ugly games. It's, as an aesthetic choice,
it is a hard era of video games to evoke nostalgia in while still looking good.
Yes. Like, you compare it, for example, to like the work of Lilith, aka Botster, who did Bloodborne PSX. Like, I think that's a good example. Like, she does great PSX character art on commission. I got her to do Commander Sterling as a PlayStation 1 character model. It looks fucking great. But I think it takes some real talent to pull that off, and a lot of games that emulate that style are as ugly as the uglier PS1 games out there. And I think certainly slapping a filter on is the worst way you can do it. And that's sort of the problem with Little Gator Game and Short Hike's take on that is it does just come across like a really... Like they ran it through a pixel filter in Photoshop. And I think if you find yourself doing that, don't. Just stop yourself. And either work really, really, really fucking hard making a PSX aesthetic from scratch that probably has to be more detailed and more modernized than the original games. Or do something else. But yeah, it's a very nice game as a Short Hike. That would really be my only criticism, is I'm not fond of how pixely it is. Even on the lowest setting, it was still a bit too jarring for me. Well, not too jarring. It became a lot more... I got used to it. But, my God, the default setting is just horrible. But that's the only criticism. As a game, it's fun. The atmosphere, the writing, just very pleasant. That's where it really sort of compares to Little Gator Game. Those are two games where the word pleasant is like the overruling word I could say about it, and a very complimentary thing indeed. Because even some really awesome games, you couldn't use the word pleasant to describe them. Like, you know, my favourite game of all time is Silent Hill 2. That ain't fucking pleasant. But there really is something to be said in a medium that trades on violence so much, which I'm all on board for, don't get me wrong. There's something to be said for games where you can be like, that's just pleasant. Yeah.
Conrad, you played anything else this week?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
I think that's basically everything on my played list.
Yeah.
Lovely. Well, shall we get on with some of the other bits?
Yeah.
Sure.
Why not?
Before we get on to the news, I watched a thing this week that I want to talk a little bit about.
I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna watch it like tonight or tomorrow.
Okay. I'm gonna stay like very, very spoiler free.
I mean, it's not even from a spoiler perspective, but I wish I had something to contribute. I tried to watch it this morning.
I saw the same thing, and I just want to say, like, okay, I understand why he fucked it. Did he have to spit on it as well?
Well, you do need to lube, I would assume. I mean, it's for lube, right?
It was in his face.
Oh,
I'm just saying,
oh.
like, two clowns fucking is enough. You don't need spit play on top of it, which I'm all for that. I just think you ruin the face paint once you start doing that.
It's true.
Yeah.
You just ruin the face paint.
So we'll watch the first episode of The Last of Us.
Oh, fuck.
So look, episode 1 of The Last of Us, structurally, it's what you imagine. It is, if you've played the original The Last of Us, it is conceptually, the start of that first game up to the sort of revelation about Ellie being immune, I really like this. I think they've made some very smart choices that I think are genuinely, like, very much to the benefit of this as an adaptation. Trying to put my finger on what I think they've done well about this adaptation of The Last of Us, an episode in, is that they've given a lot more breathing room and time to perspectives of characters who are not Joel. Because you are not having to stick with the one character that we made video game mechanics about combat for. And as such, this adaptation has a broader view of the world, and I think that it doesn't fundamentally change a lot of, like, the plot beats that you would expect to see. If you are someone who is coming into this knowing the game, a lot of things you are familiar with will happen in ways that you are familiar with. But there is nice little areas of expanding and of pulling the camera back and just taking a little more time to sit with things in this world that are not in the midst of fighting. For this first episode, a lot of that comes in the form of spending a decent chunk more time in the world prior to the outbreak happening, and giving you a glimpse of what there was before it was lost. And in particular, I think this adaptation does a much better job of building up the context in which the outbreak happens, and it not just, oh, and suddenly it's happened, here it is, like, having there be some dramatic and narrative build towards it that feels satisfying, and some building of relationships like that between Joel and his daughter that genuinely benefits the narrative. There are some changes that are little tweaks from the original source material that I think do not fundamentally change the core of what the story is, and I think are smart for making this something enjoyable to watch without playing. I'm trying not to say too much about it. There is a little bit of a reliance on wanting to sort of mimic scenes directly out of cutscenes from the game. There are certain moments where it's like, oh, this is that one cutscene I definitely remember, with bits of dialogue definitely sort of lifted wholesale. But the scenes that have been added in between those to sort of add context are genuinely, like, really interesting. I think that the kid that's playing Ellie, absolutely fantastic job. Same for Pedro Pascal, who's playing Joel. I think that both of them have captured the core vibe of the character without trying to just one-to-one do the performance from the game. And I feel like there is some real hope that this might be something that doesn't keep itself too beholden to its source material, but does bring something new to the table. And I'm kind of excited. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good adaptation. It's walking that line between we're making the thing you know, but also we're not gonna do things just because that's how they were in a video game pretty well.
I'm very interested to watch it. The buzz and critical response surrounding it. I mean, simply to even hear critics at major outlets express something other than derision at something based on a video game is remarkable.
Yeah.
Now, I've always sort of thought this would be better as a movie anyway.
Yeah.
You know, or TV series in this case, and we'll see.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I don't want to say too much in the way of specifics, but, like, there are little changes made here and there that I think genuinely make some characters' behaviors a lot more understandable and better context, or that allow characterization to make a lot more sense than is necessarily given in a video game where you are trying to do gameplay mechanics.
Right.
I really appreciate things like, even as early as this first episode, it seems to be implying that we're probably going to get an episode based on the Left Behind DLC, and that is getting talked about in the story prior to it showing up, rather than it just being, and here's a thing that was never mentioned prior to happening, which is really nice. There is some effort put into making Joel as a character who is desensitized, but also has a very specific soft spot for why he would want to protect a very specific person. Something that there is some actual meat on the bones as to why he feels the way he does. It's interesting. I genuinely kind of like the changes they're making. Yeah, I'm more positive than I maybe thought I would be coming out of that first one. But yeah, should we do some news?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. We got a couple of bits of news. So let's start with Ubisoft, because Ubisoft's had a fuck ton of news stories in the last week. We'll do these in order, because there's an order of escalation. Ubisoft has cancelled 3 unannounced games and delayed Skull and Bones again. Maybe it's going to be this year, maybe next year, who the fuck knows? Yeah, so this news came sort of bundled with the fact that Ubisoft has confirmed that it has had disappointing financial results for its most recent quarter. Across the board, Ubisoft games have not been selling as well as expected.
This is the old below expectations TM phenomenon that I talk about on the Jimquisition.
Yes, and very specifically they've pointed to things like Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope not selling nearly as well as the first game, and they've basically gone, oh, there's major changes, the industry's shifting towards mega brands and long-lasting titles, and...
Well, whose fault is that?
Yeah, I can't think of a studio more at fault for that than Ubisoft. Right? So they're having a review of their revenue prospects, and they're going to have an increased cautiousness over the coming years, and blah, 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 blah.
I like that they admit, though, what I've said for years. Like, we're now at the point where they are straight up saying that it's not enough for a game to be successful anymore. It's not enough for a game to not lose money. It's not enough for a game to make money. You know, I repeat this mantra on the show all the time. Companies don't want money, they want all of the money. Which, that quote, when I first said it many years ago, came from someone who was working at Square Enix. And that was their insight from having worked there. That was the attitude. Mm-hmm. And we see this with not just video game companies. This is exactly why Netflix keeps cancelling all those shows, no matter how big they are, no matter how much people are enjoying them, no matter how much they're getting watched. It's not enough to be successful. And that is when you know that capitalism has truly gotten fucked up. Because, as Ubisoft now admits, and it's nice to see them admit something for once, it's all about, it's not about brands, it's mega brands. Because capitalism only exists, capitalism exists on the false notion that perpetual rapid growth is sustainable forever.
Yes.
It's not a reasonable or realistic expectation, but it's what they expect. And it's why these games always perform below expectations.
They are constantly raising the expectations, yeah.
Yeah. They're making wild promises to their investors that this game's going to shift this game's going to shift this. One of the most famous examples, of course, being Dead Space 3, making, what was it, $3 million? 5.
And those investors have likewise been trained by capitalism to believe that their investment should perpetually be more valuable year on year, right?
Yeah.
Should deliver greater return year on year. So when it doesn't, then they do not acknowledge or recognize that there is a issue with that line of thinking as it regards to reality.
Yeah.
They have been taught that that is reality, and so therefore there is something wrong with the product, the company, the workers.
It's the shifting market.
Yeah.
You know, it's never them. It's never their fault. But we've reached a point where that attitude has become so poisonous and so extreme that we are now in genuinely fucked up situations, like HBO refusing to air shows that are made and filmed because they'd rather use it for a tax write-off than actually put it out there, because it's all about keeping up this grand lie that capitalism has maintained, that this perpetual rapid growth is something they can do forever.
Now, I before we get on to like the other stories about Ubisoft's financials that are important to talk about, I do want to take like one little sidestep, because we talk about Ubisoft being like, no, the future is mega brands. We need to have like the ultra successful mega brands that are definitely making enough money to justify the time spent making them. We did get confirmation this week that Beyond Good and Evil 2 is apparently still in development. They've cancelled 3 unannounced projects. They've not taken the opportunity to get rid of Beyond Good and Evil 2 5.5 years after they showed the last trailer for it.
I'm genuinely tired of hearing about it. Like, I'm genuinely tired of Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Oh, I've looped around to finding it hilarious at this point. I'm in no way, like, expecting it to be good. I'm just... Yeah.
No, it's funny. I just mean, as a product, I might have ever, at one point, even before, I completely wrote Ubisoft off as something I'd ever give money to. Like, I had interest in it, and now, like, even if I wasn't unpersoning Ubisoft or uncorporating, I feel empty towards it as a product.
So, to remind people where development on that game was at, the big, like, oh, it's happening again trailer was E3 2017. Michel Ancel left Ubisoft in the summer of 2020, which that was the first time where I was like, oh yeah, Ubisoft's been trying to like not make this for years and Ancel's been pushing for it. This is the perfect opportunity to cancel it. Nope, they kept making it. This is another good opportunity. You're cancelling projects left, right, and centre. Like, this is the second time a perfect opportunity to cancel this game has come and gone and they haven't done it.
I wonder if they ever will act. Like, Ubisoft never wanted to do it. And they've used it as a carrot on the end of a stick for several things. Like, oh, Rayman's got to sell this amount, otherwise we won't do Beyond Good and Evil 2, or Beyond Good and Evil HD has to sell, or we won't do it.
I can't believe Beyond Good and Evil 2 is going to happen, because Beyond Good and Evil 1 was kind of a niche success. It was not a big moneymaker.
Yeah.
Why are you still developing it in your era of, this has to be a mega brand?
No, I think Steph's right. I think Steph is 100%. They are leveraging the cult audience.
Yeah.
They know that there is, among those people, they are going to be the most dedicated consumer if it means that they get this thing.
And I'm not saying for sure that it'll never happen, but I don't think it will.
I'm with you, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they've ever wanted to make it. I think it was Michel Ancel who sort of leveraged his sort of influence to actually get it done. And I think this whole time, Ubisoft as a company has allowed it to be made under duress. And at this point, it's probably easier for them to just keep saying it's coming.
Yeah.
Rather than trigger sort of any backlash.
As has been proven with Skull and Bones, you can just keep saying a game's coming and then whenever it gets closer, push it back a bit more.
Yeah.
And no one can prove that's not real.
I mean, at this point, I would need evidence. I need proof of life.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because at this point, like, it's like sadness for the Wii. That old Phantomware.
Yeah. Let me talk to Beyond Good and Evil on the phone. Make sure that
Right,
they're
yeah,
okay,
exactly.
that you haven't already, you didn't kill them 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So on top of that, we got the news that Ubisoft's company stock value fell by 19% following the news of their cancelling a bunch of products and their stuff not selling as well as expected. That is a piece of news. It was followed up by Kotaku managed to get a copy of an email that Yves Guillemot sent company-wide to staff, telling them to take responsibility for forthcoming projects and their success.
Sorry, he's telling people to take responsibility for something.
Oh, yeah, he is.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, yeah. Let's have a listen to his quote, in which he blames, a lot of things that I think are probably his fault on the workers. Today, more than ever, I need your full energy and commitment to ensure we get back to the path to success. I'm also asking that each of you be especially careful and strategic with your spending and initiatives to ensure we're being as efficient and lean as possible.
For sale.
The ball is in your court to deliver this lineup on time and at the expected level of quality and show everyone what we're capable of achieving. So what he's said here is, you need to spend less money, but you still need to deliver the game on time and of the same quality, which sounds to me like a lot of unpaid crunch is probably expected. Right? Because you can't spend less on making the game while still making the game as quickly and as well.
Yeah, that's not really how it works. Good, fast, cheap.
Yeah, you can't have good, fast, cheap unless you abuse someone to get there. So, in response to that, we've got rumblings of strike action and walkouts and things happening now.
I'd love that. I would love to see it.
So Ubisoft Paris staff have received a call to strike. Union workers at Ubisoft Paris, who are part of the Workers' Union Solidaires Informatique, has called for strike action on Friday the 27th of January, stating, quoting, sort of making some fun of Yves Guillemot's quote, "The ball is in our court, but the money stays in his pocket," which is very fair. Understandably, staff at Ubisoft are not happy with Yves Guillemot keeping his very big bonuses and going, oh, you've really got to tighten your belts and still deliver everything as expected with less money while I have my big bonus. That's not gone over well with staff.
Yeah.
This is going to be a rough strike month in France. There, all of the major French unions have called for a strike on the 19th because of pension reforms that are being proposed. It's...
I mean, I'd be offended too.
Yeah.
If I was a dog and a flea was telling me to bleed better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's essentially what we're doing. CEOs, the executive class in general is such a parasitic class. And for them to essentially say, you're not labouring hard enough so I can make money off the back of you is despicable.
So I will read some of the statement from this union because I think it is quite telling and it's worth listening to. They accuse Guillemot of trying to shift the blame once again onto employees, saying that CEO's calls for employees to give it our all and be efficient and lean as possible would lead to overtime, managerial pressure, and burnout. They said, if the request to employees to be especially careful and strategic with your spending is supposed to be ironic, considering the company's editorial strategy the last few years, it's not funny. When Mr. Guillemot speaks of attrition and organizational adjustments, it means staff reductions, discrete studio closures, salary cuts, disguised layouts, etc. They also had 4 demands of Ubisoft because they feel that Guillemot, and I think they're right in this, is asking a lot from his employees but without any compensation. So they're asking for an immediate 10% increase for all salaries, regardless of annual increases, to compensate for inflation. Improved working conditions with a particular focus on implementing a 4-day work week. Transparency on the evolution of local and global workforces. And a strong commitment against disguised dismissals and a condemnation of abusive managerial policies that push employees to resign. So yeah, all the complaints we have about Ubisoft on a executive level, good fucking luck to the workers at Ubisoft. I hope you are able to get some of the things you deserve out of that company.
I'm not optimistic.
No, but
I 100% support and hope that you can achieve something better for yourselves than what you're getting there.
Yeah.
One way or another.
We've got a couple of quick updates on the Activision Blizzard King buyout situation. This is more people, more companies, more organizations stepping in to go, maybe this buyout shouldn't happen. The latest, Google and Nvidia have contacted US financial regulators about the purchase of ABK. Sources told Bloomberg that both Google and Nvidia had expressed concerns to the FTC, basically trying to suggests that Microsoft would gain an unfair advantage in the mobile market, the game subscription market, and the cloud gaming market. Yeah, I mean, they're looking to move into those spaces, and this would be a good wedge to have to move into those spaces.
Yep.
Some people have argued that perhaps Nvidia is doing this a little maliciously because Microsoft protested Nvidia's acquisition of ARM a while back, and there are some people going, is this Nvidia just going, fuck you won't let us monopolize, we won't let you?
Fine. Finally, some competition.
Yeah. Who knows if anything will come of that, but it's worth knowing there's some more players throwing their hat in the ring. And the other update we have is that it seems like it's not just going to be the FTC complaining about antitrust. The EU's regulatory board is also going to be looking into whether this is an antitrust situation and laying out their reasons for being concerned.
Truly surprised that they got there later. Like, I really would have expected the EU to have jumped in before the FTC.
I don't know, I feel like the EU takes their time and works through things methodically.
Oh, yeah.
Processes and shit.
I don't know enough about the FTC to know how similar they are or not.
Well, to be fair, the FTC has a pretty broad leverage to just take action because we worship money.
Plus, these are American companies as well, so it's probably taken time for the EU to... I mean, it's still shocking the FTC stepped up at all, really.
Well, yeah, that's honestly more of the surprise.
Yeah.
Although they have a history of keeping a close eye on Microsoft. So
yeah,
someone's got to. Every corporation should have a handler.
But yeah, we don't know anything specific here, but what we can expect is probably in the next week or two, hearing about what concessions the EU wants out of Xbox to make this go ahead. So probably going to have a new list of things that Microsoft has to work out. Do we or do we not capitulate on this point to get through this?
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, before we finish up today, Steph, did you at all see anything about this Bored Ape Yacht Club video game this week?
No, I saw y'all talking about it, but I was being pricked with allergens at the hospital.
Oh, okay.
Turns out I'm allergic to nuts, by the way.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah, seem to recall that.
I thought we knew that, yeah.
Yeah, after several hospitalizations. Yeah, it was similar to Beyond Good and Evil 2. Apparently the NHS wanted to see it for themselves. But yeah, I saw it, but I hadn't had a chance to follow it, so do please tell me.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so I feel like before we point Steph at the trailer to watch, I think we need to try and explain as best we can the video game here.
Well, this is the thing that I'm contending with. Like, I am not sure how to explain to any human being, like, in a clear and concise manner, how this actually works.
So, I've been trying to do this for several days, and I think this is the closest I can get, and it's going to be glossing over a lot of the complicated bullshit. If you have a Bored Ape NFT, you can get a pass that will let you play a video game in the span of 3 weeks that it's playable. That is you're a monkey surfing through some sewers trying to get a high score.
It's Tunnel Run.
Yeah, it's Tunnel Run, but with apes, and we'll get to the narrative conceit of this in a minute. But you have to have an NFT to play the game for 3 weeks to get a high score.
No, hang on. No, we need to clarify something about this because they needed to make it confusing as fuck. So everybody who has a Bored Ape,
yeah,
gets a sewer pass. Okay, now the sewer pass is the thing that's necessary to play the game, but the sewer pass is transferable. So you could transfer to anyone. You do not have to have a Bored Ape to receive the sewer pass, and you can play the game if you have the sewer pass.
But you can only submit your score to the leaderboard if you, at the end of the period of time where the game's available, have the sewer pass still.
Yes, and the score that is on the sewer pass is attached to the sewer pass. So if you were to, say, give your sewer pass to someone else and they played on it, it's not racking up score for you when you get it back. It just goes back to whatever shitty score you had.
Yeah.
Was this convoluted access and release structure designed by Nintendo's evil twin?
Oh, we're not even like a third of the way in.
We're just getting started, Fred.
We're barely there. We're barely there. So
Okay.
this is being suggested as a skill-based event, despite the fact that you can use all sorts of ape currency to get things that will make it easier for you to get a higher score. So it's not a skill-based event at all, but they're pretending it's a skill-based event when you can just spend money to do better at it. So at the end of the time, the very top person on the leaderboard will get the key out of the monkey's ass.
Oh, did we not mention?
Yeah, we haven't mentioned that yet.
Yeah, that's right.
Now,
Yeah.
I can't help but notice during the description of this game that you've mentioned, as that last point, in fact, that you get the key. Let me just get this straight. You get the key from the monkey's ass.
Yeah, so the game is called Dookie Dash.
Dookie Dash.
Yeah, Dookie Dash.
Oh, right.
It's about a monkey who took such a big shit that it tore a hole in reality, and like a key in a box came through, and then he accidentally swallowed the key, and now they've got to go through the sewers to get to the bottom of his toilet so they can pull the key out of his arse.
It's the fact that all of this revolves around shit. A moment of rare self-reflection from the NFT world.
Oh no, not in the slightest. There is no self-reflection here.
No, they just think poop is funny. That's all it is. And they're not
Yeah.
wrong. Poop is funny. Look,
Poop is funny.
I'm there.
Yeah, like Boston's Favourite Son is available wherever good podcasts are found. Shit is quite amusing.
Yeah, so like, here's where this goes from here though. Only the very top person on the leaderboard gets the key, but everyone else can be involved in the summoning event.
Which happens in like February.
Yeah, so like the Great Dog Prophet will show up, and like you will be able to use your sewer passes and their attached scores, and also some other series of NFT related things to turn your sewer passes into a different kind of NFT later.
Right.
Which will then be utilized as part of a next phase of the game.
Yeah, and also we didn't mention that the sewer passes come in various tiers, because like depending on whether you have the Bored Ape or like a better kind of Bored Ape, or also the accompanying dog.
Oh yeah, the dog gets you a second sewer pass.
Yeah. Or like a higher quality sewer pass maybe, but then because this is only like pass 1, and then you've got to do skill-based mint 2, then minigame set 1, and then it's going to branch into minigame set 2 and then combining with BAKC.
Okay. The ADHD has gone off the rails with it. It's reached that point where all I want to do now is Google pictures of cotton candy lobsters. Like, I'm off the rails with it mentally.
I honestly cannot say we are explaining it any worse than the video does.
No, but I will, at this point, at the bottom of our little chat, send you a link to the animated trailer.
Yes. Now, as you're watching this, I would like to note that the ape coin, which is... when did that video come out? What's the date on that?
The date on the video is 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago. Okay.
The trial of Jimmy the monkey.
I'm looking at the explainer video. The explainer video came out on the 14th. Okay.
Yeah, it was this week, the explainer. Yeah.
Right. All right. And the reason I am doing that is because I am looking at a tracker that tracks ApeCoin.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Has this had an impact on the ape coins?
Well, it's interesting. At about, as of like 3:30 in the morning on the 14th, when this explainer release, it spikes, right?
Mm-hmm.
It goes in that morning, coming from the prior day or the prior morning of let's see, on the same time, 24 hours earlier, it was 487. It shoots up to 565. Like a nice, healthy jump. And then it's about an hour and a half later, it's lost a lot of that growth.
Yeah.
And then by the next morning, it's lost more than half of the growth that it had had.
Yeah.
Rallies a little bit, but then now it's just right back where it was before, and I mean, like 2 days before the announcement, meaning there'd probably been a couple of days of them hyping something coming, building it. But even still, okay, to get a power-up for your run in the game, if you were trading at today's rates, you would still pay $9 per boost.
Yep.
And that's before you factor in gas. Like,
yeah.
Disgusting.
So this is the state of NFT video games. This is all the Square Enix, when you say, hey, we want to get NFTs into video games, this is your contemporaries. This is who you are up alongside.
Well, and I think there is an aspect to this complexity that feels almost intentional. It's not merely bad design, I don't think. Because I think that the people who are really involved in cryptocurrency like the forbidden knowledge aspect of it. They like that they have this understanding of this secret world that to the rest of us seems alien. But don't worry, it's the future.
Well, it also is their only it's their only defense of NFTs. It has been from the beginning. They get to say, you just don't understand.
Yeah.
That's always what it is do your research, you just don't understand. And then you look, and it's just arcane bollocks.
It's arcane bollocks so that you can pull a key out of a monkey's ass. No one needs that much obfuscation to pull a key out of a monkey's ass.
No. I tell you what, of all things ever said on Podquisition, I think that's the truest.
Exactly.
You don't need arcane bollocks to pull a key out of a monkey's ass. And really, are we all not keys in monkeys' asses?
And with that, I think we're done. I think that's it for today.
I think we are done.
Oh, I think I'm just done in general. Yeah. Just plain fucking done.
I mean, and we also forgot to mention that the prior episode was episode 420. We didn't make a single weed drug joke.
We didn't. We somehow didn't.
I was smoking weed at the time and very high, so I don't know what y'all's excuses was.
I mean, our excuse is we weren't smoking weed at the time.
All right, fair.
I happen to be pure and virginal, and I have never eaten a drugs.
You've never lettuced with Satan.
No, not at all. And I've certainly not been given weed by fans at the end of wrestling shows. Not once.
Not all once.
Ever. But speaking of things that are completely just fucking done, Laura, you've done a lot.
I have done a lot. You can find me everywhere at Laura K Buzz, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Patreon. That's the one that pays the bills. I was on the radio a couple times this week talking about gender recognition certificates. TikTok I posted about that has like tens of thousands of views, so that's fun. I posted a thing about Everstones in Pokemon basically just being puberty blockers for trans people, and how if you can support any of the Pokemon in any of the episodes that have used an Everstone, you can fucking support trans people's medical access. Go watch that over on YouTube. Other than that, look forward to Who Hunts the Whale releasing in less than a month. That's February 16th. That's that book I've written about, definitely not a direct satire of existing video game publishers that exist, talking about the evils of capitalism and how it can destroy even the most excited person to work in video games as a field. But also, it's funny and heartwarming and hopeful in amongst the devastation that a story like that becomes. So check out Who Hunts the Whale. That's coming out February 16th. Conrad, what about you? Where are you on the internet?
Well, I mean, I guess, I would say that I am a fan of Steph. You can find me on Twitter, at Conrad Zimmerman, also Instagram. You can buy anti-capitalist propaganda from me at pinfultruth.com. audiobooks, conradreads.com. Hang out with me on Twitch. I've been playing Chibi-Robo, been playing a bit of Hades, gonna be doing more of an Eternal Darkness playthrough. Just come on by. That's twitch.tv/thatconradzimmerman, and everything I do online gets supported through Patreon at patreon.com/fistshark. And you know who else has a Patreon? James Stephanie Sterling.
Oh yeah, that's true. Patreon.com/Jimquisition. That is the Patreon that supports this and the show and the reviews and all of that business. I also stream, typically Mondays, Wednesdays, and sometimes at the weekends. Twitch TV/Jim Sterling. My current confirmed wrestling dates are thus: January 28th, Sheffield, True Grit Wrestling. February 5th, Manchester, Sovereign Pro Wrestling. March 18th, Blackpool PCW, and March 25th, Leeds, which is a big hyped one. The reaction for the announcement this past Saturday was huge when I challenged Priscilla in ring after destroying Nathan Black. But yeah, March 25th, Leeds at the Left Bank venue, True Grit Wrestling. Commander Stephanie Sterling versus Priscilla, Queen of the Ring, in our second ever match. The first match I had with Priscilla is my favourite match I've ever had. The second one's going to be fucking amazing. So that is one, if you are near to Leeds or can get there for the 25th, I promise you, you do not want to miss that one. And that's that. Thank you all for listening, as per usual. Thank you for all the support and all of that business. We will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.